Hello and welcome to the Happy Healthy Human podcast. I'm Coach Kara.
And I'm Coach Lauren. Also, did we figure out our name of what we're doing, what we say that we are?
Oh,
remember how Eric wants us to be Fit Talk?
Well, so he wanted our segment to be called Girl Talk.
It is not going to be Girl Talk or Girl Chat. We're not even girls. We're women.
Okay, didn't know where you were going with that one. But I think we were in the running of, I think that Fit Talk was like the top contender, right?
I think I liked Fit Talk.
Yeah.
What was the other one we had for us? Maybe we could have people vote.
I did actually ask ChatGPT. Okay, if we're gonna run it on Instagram, we're gonna have a poll for the name of our segment.
So Fit Talk, what was the other one? Do you remember?
I don't remember what they were. So I'll have to go back on the archives.
Oh my gosh. It's not going to be Girl Talk, whatever this segment is. If you have ideas, completely fine. Maybe Woman Talk? That sounds not cool. Gal Talk?
Yeah, not really. I don't know. We need something like not involving our gender.
No. Why? Just because two women talking and we're the only two female coaches at the time. Shout out to Coach Beth. Very thankful for her years of service. But I'm like, that doesn't, it's like a phenomenon for some
terrible.
reason.
It's a terrible
Half our
name.
gym is women.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just a normal thing. So anyways, back to Happy Healthy Human podcast. So we cover all types of things. We talk about movement, nutrition, recovery, community connection, all of it. Our topic today is we're getting into Christmas season and then New Year's. So we wanted to talk about specifically how to set achievable goals for the new year. So like New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
And how we go about it. So that's what we'll be talking about for today.
Love it. Well, before then, let's catch up. What's been going on? Lauren, you were gone.
I was in Brazil.
Tell us about it.
I mean, it was awesome. I love Brazilians. They're so fun, so sweet. I didn't work out for 10 days. I haven't done that in like years.
How'd you feel not working out for 10 days?
Well, I got sick. So I was in bed for like 2 days. So I'm now getting back in the gym. I've been starting to work out since Thursday and I'm so sore. When people talk about like being sore, getting into CrossFit, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel that. I was struggling yesterday.
Oh my God, I bet. Did you start running again since coming back?
I run every day. So I need to take a rest day. I've been doing CrossFit and running. And I'm like, I probably need a rest. But I did it was really fun. I did with a friend last night. We did a Christmas tree light run through Monrovia. So we found this route and we ran throughout the neighborhoods. We had like lights on and we were running and looking at Christmas tree lights.
Wait, that's so cool.
It was so fun.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so did you plan it out knowing that there were lights up or did you just kind of like run through neighborhoods?
Yeah, no, we like have found places that have lights. And so we ran through and all of that.
Oh, wow.
We're like, this is what normal humans do. They run 5 miles to look at lights, right?
Yeah, everyone does that.
Everyone does that.
Yeah, I definitely am going to do that.
Exactly. But what about you? How's your life been the past couple weeks?
It's been good. Yeah, I went to Big Bear Mountain this past weekend, which was really fun. I love going up to the mountains because like there's clean air and you can just relax and chill.
It is sad that our air, I'm like in denial of how dirty our air can be.
Yeah, it's once you remove yourself from it, that you're like, oh, we're breathing dirty air all day. But I have to say, okay, so quick story time.
Let's hear it.
I don't snowboard or ski, so I was just kind of the person chilling with all of the gear and like the dogs. We brought some dogs up with us.
Were you just like, I'm not going to injure my body?
Yeah. And I've never done it before. I've done it one time when I was younger, but I was ordering food. This is when I realized like, okay, I always have like my coach's brain on, but like I was ordering food for everybody and behind the kitchen, I could see them preparing noodles because they served pasta, and this woman strains out probably like 2 boxes worth of spaghetti noodles, right? And then I see her holding the bowl and she takes like a 2-gallon jug of canola oil and literally dumps a quarter of it onto the noodles and starts mixing it up. And
I'm like, stop.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, first of all, canola oil, I'm not a big fan. I don't know. It freaks me out. Second, I was like, you do not know what these restaurants are putting in your food. Like it was so like eye-opening for me that it's like, oh, well, that's why pasta tastes so good when you eat at restaurants because they're dumping
canola oil,
quarter of a bottle of canola oil on it.
You know what's funny? When I'm like counting macros, I definitely don't put in like the oils. I'm like, oh, I just ate these noodles. Like there's nothing in it. And so,
oh my God, that was shocking. But anyway, I was telling one of my clients that and I was like, yeah, you really don't know when you're eating out, like what they're putting in your food. But overall, it was a good weekend. Yeah.
Did you still eat the noodles?
I didn't order that actually.
So you were fine.
I went real healthy and I ate chicken tenders.
But did you chicken tenders? That was like saturated in canola oil. That wasn't even just kidding. A quarter.
Chicken tenders are not considered a healthy food, okay?
Well, the meat inside is good. And then there's like fats around it. That's good for you.
Carbs and fats. Yep.
Yeah. Everything has its place.
But it was delicious. All right. Well, hey, we're getting into the new year and resolutions are all the buzz. Have you ever set a New Year's resolution and stuck to it?
I mean, yes, but I've also like done 1,000 things where I've like written it down. I'm going to do it and I never do it.
Yeah.
So it's like both. I'm getting better though, because I've figured out some ways to actually achieve my goals.
Okay. Love it.
But I'd love to hear if you have ever, like, do you do New Year's? I feel like you're just always making goals.
No. Yeah. No, I think throughout the year, I'm just, kind of looking at where I'm at in the year and just deciding like, okay, what do I want the next like 3 months, 6 months, whatever to look like. But I think in high school, one time I said that I wasn't going to eat French fries for the year. I did pretty well.
Sad. Why?
But that was a really, that was a really sad year.
Was that like a health strategy?
Yeah. Didn't know anything really about nutrition at the time. I was just like, French fries. I eat a lot of them. I'm going to eat less of them. So
I had this thing where I thought peanut butter was healthy. And so I would eat spoonfuls of peanut butter all the time.
Oh my God.
Which like Jif peanut butter. I was like, oh, I'm being healthy. I had like the craziest ideas of health back in the day.
Yeah.
So
it's a high school, like you think you know best, right?
But it is funny. I mean, as we're talking about goals, I've coached now 3 or 4 years, and you probably see this too. We will gyms will fill up in January. Mm-hmm. It is like people have done the holidays and they're like, okay, I'm getting in my fitness goals. And then it kind of just trickles back into normalcy.
Yeah.
But it is a thing where by January, people are like, okay, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get back in nutrition, all of that. So people are thinking about it.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know what it is about the new year, which I feel this way too. I think it feels like a fresh start coming out of the holidays that can be really stressful. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I can relax now. It's the new year. Things are settled down. Unless you work in a gym, things don't settle down usually. It actually gets really busy. But I think that it can be a good time of the year just to reflect on did you accomplish everything you wanted to last year? And if not, how do you want to approach the new year to reach, whatever goals you have set?
Yeah.
But you have to make it realistic. And I want to hear what you have kind of written down, or maybe the ideas in your head of how we can help people achieve resolutions that they set.
For sure. I mean, I think a couple of things is back in the day, I mean, this could be a couple years ago, I would literally just write on a piece of paper and be like, well, I hope it happens. And then sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
That is okay, that's not data driven at all. I think something that did help me, I talked about this in a former podcast with Eric, is when I realized during my master's program about this growth versus fixed mindset, I had to actually switch my mindset that then transitioned into how I go about goal setting.
Yeah.
But basically I would not set a goal unless I knew I could be perfect at it. And so that gave me no wiggle room to actually grow and set really good goals, because I was well, I can't fail at this. So if I do this, I have to do it perfectly. And realizing that, and I would do really big goals that kind of okay, well, how do you do all the steps in between? So when I realized, oh, I can fail at my goals and that's okay. And also I can be, it sounds funny, but inconsistent at my goals and just take smaller steps and then continue to grow in them and make different changes. And I can even change my goals. Once I started to give myself a lot of more permission, I started to actually achieve more goals, which is kind of funny to think about.
Yeah.
So for me, it started to be I'm going to actually start writing down little goals, what I'm going to do this week, what I'm going to do in the next month, and then I'm going to reevaluate. And so that started to help me practically just little by little chip away when it came to bigger goals. So that's very kind of broad, but that my mindset changing of oh, I can achieve my goals. And then I think my mindset changing for oh, I can fail at my goals and actually change them gave me this permission to try all these new things.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious if you.
Yeah. No, I think that's cool. I have probably mentioned this so many times, but I used to work at Lululemon, and we the company is huge on goal setting. Yeah, huge.
I feel like I've heard this so many times.
Yeah, so it's called we would set these things called BHAG, which is from a book. I don't know what book it is, but basically it stands for like big, hairy, audacious goals.
Notes.
Yeah,
put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes, right? Yeah, okay. But BHAG stands for big, hairy, audacious goals, which is kind of funny. But Lulu was like huge on that. And so we would set goals in terms of like our job position, numbers that we wanted to hit at the store, what we wanted our like holiday season to look like and things like that. And the way that I learned to write goals at Lululemon was in like a step-by-step process. So I think similar to what you're talking about, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the goal was like, okay, this year I want to get my first bar muscle up.
Yes.
Right. So you're going to choose when you want it by. You don't have to. You can just say that within the year you want to get it. So now the next step is, okay, well, what's the step I have to take before getting a bar muscle up to be able to get the bar muscle up? Okay, so maybe the first step is you need to be able to get your hips to the bar. So I'm going to get my hips to the bar. The next thing I'm going to do a couple weeks before that is I'm going to practice my, like chest to bar pull-ups. Then I need to get my kipping pull-ups. Then I need to get a strict pull-up. So you're like working your way backwards from your goal so that you have really clear steps of how to reach that. And you can actually now like envision step by step how you will reach that. Now that sounds really overwhelming because you have to be extremely detailed in that, but you can do it pretty like, you can do it at a pretty like macro level. You can do it on a notepad. Yeah, 100%. But you can do it at a pretty bigger level. Like as long as you are clear on what your goal is, you just need to work backwards of what steps you need to take. If your goal is to become the CEO of a company, but right now maybe you're a sales associate, that goal is obviously not going to happen within the year. But what do you need to do this year, this month, this week to help you to figure out how to get there?
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. I think people are just like, oh, I want to get to 100% of whatever that goal is. And it's just like, there's so many details that go in between it. And it's those small little changes, the small changes in your mindset that are going to then get you to where you want to go. I think practically for me, I just started nutrition coaching now 3 months ago or so. And I had like no idea. I was just like, oh, I'm a healthy eater. I like eat these foods. So I'm like healthy and I feel pretty good. But then when I started, at first I was really overwhelmed because they give you a certain type of macros you need to get to. And you need to be tracking all the time. And so at first I was so overwhelmed because I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I feel like a failure already. And so I had to like talk myself through like this week, I'm just going to track what I eat. I'm not even going to hit my macros. Next week, I'm just going to try to hit a protein goal of like this much protein at every meal. And so it was like little by little, I had to like walk myself through little steps to get to right now where I'm almost mindlessly tracking my calories, getting to my macros. And it's not even perfect. Some days I'm like the other day, completely messed up with like what I was eating or my macros. It's like, okay, great. I messed up that day. Sure. Okay. I'll try again, like jump on it the next day. And so I think we have to like, just know like, you're not going to do it perfectly, but like little by little changes that are actually, like you said, doable instead of, I'm just going to get to this ultimate fitness goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that shows how much patience can play into it. Like 3 months for, depending what your goal is, like 3 months can feel like a really long time, but in the broad, like to me, when you told us that you were signing up for nutrition coaching, that literally feels like it was yesterday, but you've already made so much progress in 3 months. It went by so fast. And without you setting those small goals, you could still be in a place where you're like, wait, well, what the heck am I doing? Like, I still don't even know how to track my food.
Definitely. And I think for us, it's like, we have to also celebrate those, which I think we see. Hello, Eric.
Well, I was saying that, like, 3 months went by really fast, but without setting those small goals, you wouldn't be there.
Yes. Okay. Great. Ding. Okay. So what I was going to say is also, I think it's really important is to reflect of like, where did I come from? So like to be proud of like, oh my gosh, I said I was going to do this, it intimidated me. And now like some of this is mindless to me of like, when it comes to my nutrition, and I still have goals I want to get to when it comes to my nutrition in this area specifically.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, oh, I've already been seeing progress. So how do I celebrate that? Which I think Reason does a good job of celebrating people. Like we have our milestones and all of that. But I'd be curious, like, do you celebrate your goals? Or are you kind of like, okay, finish that, on to the next?
Yeah. I was actually talking with Eric the other day because we do like end of year lunch with Eric and just kind of talk about the previous year. And when I was talking to him, I was like, I feel like this year went by and I was like, I like am having a hard time figuring out like what I've accomplished.
Yes,
because it feels like it went by so fast. And I was like, oh my God, this year's over. And I feel like we just had our like beginning of the year meeting. Yeah. And so I look back and I'll talk in terms of like training. I think that this year was like all about like gymnastics and getting better at gymnastics. I wanted to increase volume of gymnastics, getting better at them in Metcons, just getting stronger in my upper body. And I tested 30 bar muscle ups for time the other day.
Come on, sis.
And I did it and I finished and I look at the clock and I'm like, well, that was terrible. Like my time was so bad. I thought I was going to do it faster. I thought I was going to connect more and I was being so down on myself. And then Drew came up to me and he's like, hey, last year it took you longer to do 20 bar muscle ups and this year it was 30 and it was shorter time. And I was like, oh, okay. So I need the reminder to look back at the small wins, right? Today, I wasn't happy with it, but now I look back and I'm like, no, actually there's been a huge improvement, massive improvement since last year. And it's really, really important to celebrate those things because if you don't go back and celebrate, like, what are you doing it for?
Yeah. Right.
Like you're setting goals so you can see progress in yourself. And if you can't look back on the things you've accomplished, there's really no point in it, right? There's no purpose behind it.
For sure. I think that's interesting that you talked about the perspective shift because it's true. Like, especially you and me, we're perfectionists, so we're going to be harder on ourselves. Like, so to be able to have that change, that shift where Drew was able to come in and speak like truth of like, hey, you did way better than last year. You're like, oh, okay. I actually am like seeing progress on what I've been working on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also kind of like makes you think like, okay, if we're not documenting things too, I think that's a really important part of goal setting is documenting the journey. Like if you're using a notes app or if you use a notebook, like old school, photos.
I think sugar WOD, like with our weights, like tracking our weights, I think that's so important.
Yeah, having some sort of tracking system can be really helpful. Even if it's like you decide to start tracking your food and you use MyFitnessPal, it's so important to track the progress or else you won't see any because it can feel really, the days go on, you don't really realize the difference. But once you can look back on it, it's so big. But that's where I think you're familiar with SMART goals.
Yes.
Okay, help me out. Specific, measurable,
attainable, realistic, time bound.
Yes.
Which sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. Like sometimes I'm like, SMART goals, I don't know. I'm not into it. Like it seems like too rules based. It's funny.
It is. There are a lot of rules.
But I think if you can even take a couple of those, since we are talking about goal management today.
Lauren's like, don't listen to
do all that, but I guess it works.
But in that is like measurable. Like, can you actually measure how far the goal has come, right? Is the goal specific enough to understand like what you're even trying to achieve? Saying, okay, by the end of the year, I want to lose 10 pounds versus I want to lose weight. Yes. By the end of the year, what does losing weight mean? What if you lost 1 pound over 365 days? Will you actually be happy with it?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where it's really important to decide like, okay, I need to be specific with this and then like measure it. Right. I keep hitting this microphone.
Okay. We
it's driving me crazy.
We've just been punching it all
my gosh.
Day. Same. We're ready for Christmas.
I care so much about goals.
We have angst. Goals.
But yeah, I think that can be a really easy way to measure things and be able to look back on like, okay, what were the steps that I took to get here? Did I make progress?
Yeah, I think so too. And something I was thinking about when it comes to goals is enjoyment. Sounds funny, but if you can have an emotional connection to your goals, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and basically those who are emotionally connected to their goals, like enjoying. So for instance, for me with marathon training, I mean, there are days it sucks to train for a marathon. I do not want to run. I hate it. I try to just be like, I'm going to enjoy this. Like, I'm going to enjoy this run. Or I'll say, I'm going to feel so good after this run. Like, yeah, I feel like crap right now, but I'm going to feel so good afterwards that I did this. Or I'm going to feel so good that I got to my goals. And so I'll try to connect emotion to my goals in a positive way to reinforce what I'm doing. Yeah. And so if there's ways that you can find like positivity in that, because for instance, like if you hated gymnastics every single day, like why would you be doing it? But if there's an excitement and a joy of like, I get to do muscle ups today, I think there is something that pulls you into that. Yeah. I don't know if you've connected emotion or positivity to what you've been doing.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to like falling in love with the process of reaching your goal. Yeah. Because if you're not enjoying the process, it's going to be so freaking hard.
When people are like, I have to do this, I'm like, you're not going to probably if you just start like not enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in the grand scheme of things, like you don't have to do anything, but you get to do these things, and you have the opportunity to set a goal and be able to wake up every day and get 1 inch closer to it. So yeah, fall in love with the process. You don't have to love every piece of it, but as long as you are at least enjoying it and having a deep purpose in why you're trying to reach that goal, then it's gonna make it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like if you have like a deep purpose of even your why, even if it's, I mean, and any of our CrossFit Metcons, they're not comfortable during it, right? But afterwards, you're like, I'm gonna be that much closer to my goal, that much closer to fitness. I'm gonna feel great afterwards. And so even if it's painful during it, I've been like, oh, I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable in this process, because I know there's like a greater outcome. So even that perspective shift, even if maybe I don't enjoy it emotionally right at that moment. So I was thinking about with goals for you. Oh, it was with like, you've had a couple of weeks where you've had some injuries. What have you done that takes you off of your goals, or that might take you off track for a little bit? What do you do when you're set off track?
Yeah, I think that's where the like micro goals like come into play, where it's like, okay, every day I'm just going to set some expectation for myself. And if I reach it, amazing. If I go above and beyond, even better. Obviously, I'm always happy with that. Yeah. So I think that like this week, for example, I've been experiencing some pretty like bad back pain, to be honest. And so my goal is like, okay, before this workout starts, I'm going to set an expectation for myself. If I'm lifting, it's like, this is the number I hope to hit today. This is what I hope to do in my Metcon for time-based or rep-based, whatever the workout is. And so that helps me just to stay positive in my mind of like, I still have purpose behind it, because every day is just part of the overall like journey of what I'm trying to do this year with CrossFit. But I think just trying to stay as positive as possible and setting small goals, whether it's with like Dr. Josh, or if it's with Drew, who is my coach, like it's just figuring out like what I can do each day to make sure that I'm still on the right track. Yeah,
that's good. I was thinking of like what you're saying is like you're being consistent, even like just like in the little ways. Even if there's this week that's throwing you off, or there's pain some week, that you're still like, okay, I'm going to be as consistent to my goals as possible, even when these factors come in. Because I'm like, that's life. Like everyone gets life thrown at them.
Yeah.
And you can't just like get derailed all the way. And so it's like you're aiming towards your goal to the best of your ability, even in the midst of everything that's happening.
Yeah. It's just learning to like manage how to stay on track while life is just throwing like one thing after another at you, because it's going to happen.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, there's been some cool like client stories of people that have like, you know, in the past would let one bad thing derail them for months. Right. And now like we've gotten to a place, I'm specifically talking about one person I work with, but like we're at a place now where no matter what stressors come up, like he has a plan in place, because he's proven to himself in the good times and in the bad times, like I can still stay on track, or I can just jump back on track as soon as that like tough week, tough day, tough whatever passes.
Yeah.
So it's just learning to be a little bit more like resilient and just really understanding like why you're doing certain things.
No, I think that's so good. It's like almost having like a backup plan, or what is within your control when it comes to your goals.
Yeah.
So another thing I was thinking of with goals that I think is helpful is accountability. So for instance, you have Coach Drew and you have Dr. Josh Lowe. You know, I mean, I have a nutrition coach. I've got some friends I go running with, and then you all hold me accountable when I come to classes. So, but I think that's something that is like really important, is figuring out like in your community, who's holding you accountable to your goals. Because if you know someone is going to be following up with you, at least for me, I stay way more on track when it comes to goals. So I'd be curious, like how you've done accountability with goals.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. It's like, whether it's working with clients or it's myself, telling somebody like, hey, I'm going to reach out on Wednesday to make sure that you did X, Y, and Z. It puts a fire in your butt of like, oh shoot, like somebody is going to be following up with me. Or for example, like if for some of my clients who I have track their food, like, hey, I'm going to be checking your MyFitnessPal, right? So like they know that there's going to be eyes on it. And so it can be the encouragement they need of like, okay, this is what I need to do today to make sure that, you know, it's up to par with where they want it to be and with the expectation that's been set.
Yeah, I think that's so needed. And I think if you're really wanting to get to big goals, you have to have community a part of it. Like you can't do it on your own. Yeah. And I think that's people want to avoid, especially health, because that can be personal. Yeah. Like athletic wise, or when it comes to nutrition wise. But I think the more that you can pull even one or two people in, I do think you will get to it, because you're getting feedback.
Yes.
And if we're not getting feedback, I'm like, well, how do you improve?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's one thing that I appreciate about the 6:30 a.m. class, which is the class that I coach the most, is that like this morning someone came in, they're like, oh my gosh, like someone from the class texted me that they're not coming today. And so I just like sent them this. And I'm like, okay, see, that's the accountability that you need of like loving the process and loving the hard parts of reaching your goals, but also having like a friend to text you like, hey, you weren't here today. Why? Why? And I'm going to throw shade at you. Like,
yes. No, that's so good.
So I think it's cool. It's cool. And that's the really cool part about the CrossFit community is how close knit everyone is. And you have that person there that's like, hey, this person's missing. Where are they?
Definitely. I know there was someone that they had actually been sick and I didn't know. And I was thinking about them. I'm like, where are they? And they came in the other day. And I was like, you're here. And he's like, thank you for thinking of me, you know? So just, yeah, I think that's so important of like that affirmation of like, we want you to be here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, any final like encouragements for someone that is going to be going into the new year, trying to hit some goals?
yeah, I mean, smart goals. No joking. Definitely follow do the smart goals. Be specific and measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. I think for me, I think it's your mindset. That I don't know why that to me just feels so foundational of like being okay with failure. And I love the idea of like big audacious goals, but then figuring out how are you going to increment every week. And then I'd say number 2 is like figuring out consistency, and you have to have a plan when you fall off of being consistent. How do you jump back in?
Yeah.
So that'd be
I
mine.
love
What
that.
about you?
Yeah, I think same. It's like take it day by day without a plan. What is it? Failing to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah.
I probably said that wrong.
I
I
don't
like
know,
to
but I
butcher
think you've
quotes
said
on
this
here.
before, and I
Wait, and I think I
appreciate it.
mess up every time I say it.
No, I think you said that though.
Okay, perfect. Well, you guys get what I mean.
I understand.
But yeah, I think like setting a goal and then figuring out what you want your month, your week, your days to look like in order to help you get there can just be that one step to help, push you closer to that goal. And whether you follow it or not, follow as close as you can, right? Like you set it out, you took the time to write it down. So I think there's like some sort of like percentage where if you write down your goal, you're more likely to hit it.
I think the visual reminders are really important for people. Like if they can visually see it and be reminded of it,
Yeah.
it'll stick better.
I love that. Okay. And then let's end with this. Are you setting any resolutions for 2025?
I have a marathon, and then for me,
Which one?
In February, Huntington
Oh,
Marathon. So basically that one's just to complete it. I want to do another one after that for more focus on race. So that one, and then mine is actually being consistent with my nutrition and continually growing and being consistent with that, because I'm undoing, several decades of mindset when it comes to how I go about nutrition in my body. So,
yeah.
What about you?
Oh, that's awesome. I have a qualifier in January. So this is going to be a really short-term goal. But my goal is just to make it through the qualifier. And then hopefully I'll be able to qualify for the comp, and it will be in August. So
Oh, that would be great. Then you have like 6 months. Oh,
yeah, lots
perfect.
of time.
You're gonna do great.
So I think it's in August. I need Ish to confirm that. It's in Northern California, NCC.
If you get it, you'll go in August to Northern California. How many people would be competing there?
I don't know the total number, but it'd be 60 people in like the
I'm already nervous.
group that I'm in.
Just
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah. And then, with that, it's like, just don't get dead last. Like 59th is totally fine.
Yeah.
Just don't
No,
get
seriously,
last.
that sounds great. I love that idea. That's a good goal. Good goal right there.
I'm just kidding. I'll have a smart goal with that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is the Happy Healthy Human podcast.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy
You'll probably see this around
2025.
the New Year. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Stay happy, stay healthy.
Bye.